For our next sample, we're going to use the serger for the serge seam allowance. Before we go over to the serger though, you need to read the instructions because it does tell you to sew a 5/8 inch seam down the long edge on your regular machine. So I've already done that. Here's my 5/8 inch seam. So once we are done sewing that, remember to backstitch at the beginning and the end. We'll go over to the serger and learn how to serge this seam allowance. Here we are at the serger to finish our serging sample. Remember, you should have already sewn a straight 5/8 inch line on your sample. Also make sure you bring over your shears to the serging table because you will need to trim the thread, and there's no thread cutter on these machines. So here we are at the serger. When you look at the serger, it has a presser foot just like the other machines, but it is a little bit more complicated. There are 3 major rules for following and using the serger properly. They're also taped to the edge of the table next to the sergers in case you forget. Number 1, keep your fingers away from the knife. The knife is in this little area right here, so keep your fingers away from this area. Number 2, do not lift up the presser foot on this machine. You don't need to. Leave it down. The serger will grab the fabric and do what it's got to do. Last, you're going to leave behind a little thread tail. So you can see someone did a really good job of leaving behind the thread tail on this one. You're going to bring your shears over so you can cut it. It'll keep the machine from getting unthreaded and save us a lot of time in the long run. So here we go on our serger. Now this machine goes really fast, so go as slow as you need to. Don't get freaked out when it starts kind of motor running really fast. Slow down if you need to. So we're going to take our line, our 5/8 inch stitch line that we sewed on our sample, and we're going to line it up with the red line on the stitch plate, or on the presser foot. So on the presser foot itself, there is a red line. We're going to line up our stitch line with the red line. All I need to do is just stick the fabric next to the presser foot and then press on the foot pedal on the floor. And you can kind of hear the motor starts warming up, and it's just going to grab it and it's going to go. It is going to cut your fabric as you go. As you can see, we have this little piece of fabric that was cut off. It's supposed to do that. Don't freak out, but don't cut off huge amounts. So as we push this through, we're going to keep going until the end, and we're going to keep pressing on the foot pedal until we have a little tail. Then I'm going to take my shears and I'm going to cut it so that it's hanging off to the edge of the machine. I'm also going to trim the serge tail on this side. And if you look at your sample, if you've done it correctly, the 2 lines should be parallel to each other. They should be fairly straight. But the serging line never goes over your straight line. There should be a little bit of gap of fabric between the 2. So this one is pretty much done. We're going to open it up, and the instructions say to press it to one side. So we're going to press it to one side and staple it in. All right, here we are at the iron with our serge seam. This one also says to press to the side. So I'm just going to take my fabric and I'm going to push the seam to the side and iron it flat with my iron. You can use steam if you'd like. It'll give it a nice crisp finish. All right, so there's your serge. It's all finished. Staple it in with the serge side facing up so that I can check it. And this one is done. For the serge sample, you just need to staple it in with the wrong sides facing up. Once here and once here.